Disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein resigned today from the board of directors of the company that bears his name amid allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault. Actresses continue to come forward, and over 40 women are accusing the producer of misconduct. Theresa Tova is the Toronto president of ACTRA, the union that represents performers. She's also a writer, performer, and singer herself. Her group is working on ways to prevent harassment and discrimination in the industry, and she joins me now. All right, this is not a problem just south of the border. It happens right here in Canada.
It happens everywhere. It's systemic.
How bad is it?
Well, I've had a lot of members since this spotlight has been put on Harvey.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of members calling me. We're taking conversations with folks, mostly women, but not all women, men as well. But I guess about 80-90% of the calls are coming from women, coming into the union, having meetings with myself and my staff. They want their stories to be heard. Silence is no longer an option.
Right.
They're being buoyed by the stories of down south, but we're looking internally now and going, we've got the same issues. We've been dealing with harassment issues. I've got an article in my bag from 1999, 2000, where we were mentoring, educating our members on harassment in the workplace.
So what were you telling them?
Originally?
Yeah.
That they have a right to speak up, that we are there, we have their backs.
But did you really have their backs? I mean, like, and I'm not saying that that in a negative way, in an angry way. I'm just saying that so many women didn't report it. And Sue Browse said yesterday to CBC that in fact women could no longer work once they reported it.
So what we can control,
yeah,
is the workplace. Right? Once we have a contract in place and you are working on an ACTRA set with a CMPA producer, and when you are in our work environment, that we have really strong agreements negotiated with the producers, how they're going to treat work, safety, health and welfare. We are there. There are mechanisms to report. There are mechanisms to have effects from bad behavior,
okay,
right?
Take me through it.
But what we're talking about right now is things that happen pre-contract. The conversation is changing. So we can do that, but that's not where these things are happening, the one-on-ones in hotel rooms. And unfortunately, it's something left over from the old system where, I'm sorry, there's too many men in power and not women, too many men in positions of power telling male-oriented stories where women aren't vital parts of it except as sexualized beings. It's a big part of the same conversation. And so we are working with many industry partners, and I'm really excited about it. First of all, we've put in place harassment training for all of our new members, and we'd started that 6-7 years ago.
Okay, so who would get that training? Producers?
New members,
performers,
knowing that they have a voice, recognizing harassment. Some of it's under the radar a little bit. It's not as overt always, but you have rights not to be felt shameful or asked too much of you. You have a right. When you're doing something that's of a sexual nature on our sets, there are riders in place. You sign off on where you're going to be touched, how much is going to be exposed, and we send our representatives to the set as much as possible. I mean, this is a very big
to watch
industry.
Right?
To watch it, to talk to our members, to make sure that they're safe. A lot of
But how do you do the hotel thing? So you have the member comes to you, right?
That's our question now. So we've got members like Mia Kirshner coming forward. We've got Ottawa-born Chantel Cousineau, who called, Erica Rosenbaum in Montreal, who I didn't talk to, but our staff did in Montreal. Members like these three members who are actively going out on social media to the press going, yes, this happened. Not just with Harvey, and two of them were Harvey. It happened to me when I was younger. I'm older now. I'm able to speak up. But we need, what I'm proud of with the union movement is what we do best is put negotiated contracts in place that reflect the bad habits on sets, and we put regulations and protections in place, and we're really good at doing that. So if we haven't done this industry-wide, that's my nut right now, is we need to go outside of our sets. We need to get all of the industry partners at the same table, and we need to put our heads together collectively and say, do we share information?
Okay.
how do we make it stop?
But how do we make it stop? But what about that young woman who is in a situation with a powerful man who says, she's on set and she complains. Yes, they say, oh, you can't do that. Don't do that anymore. She finishes that job and then she never works again. Right?
So
that's a problem.
Mia talked about the fact that she'd not auditioned for Miramax for 20 years because of rebuking his advances. I've heard from other women who have been very, very strong and not allowed to go too far, but felt really dirty. I mean, there's horrible stories that I've been listening to. So we need our crews, we need our agents, we need our casting directors, we need our producers, we need our broadcasters, we need everybody to come to this table. And what we're doing is reaching out to say, this is industry-wide. We can't do it alone. We've put and I'm very, very proud of organizations like, for instance, CUES, the Canadian Unions for Equality on Screens. We met today with them this afternoon. Representation from IATSE, NABED, DGC, Writers Guild, from across this country. And there is such an appetite. They want to come together. They want to share information. They want to create, first of all, recognize that there's a problem. That's step one. And then find some processes. As good as much as we've been trying, the whole industry needs to look at our internal processes and then look at what we can do collectively together. Otherwise, we will never stop this.
What's the first thing you're going to do moving forward?
Well, the first thing we're doing is reaching out to I'm reaching out personally to people like CUES, and I was very, very buoyed by their decision today to say, yes, they all wanted to be part of it. They're taking it back to their organizations. We're going to call for an industry, and it has to happen quickly.
You're going to call for an industry-wide
round table discussion where the smart leaders of all these guilds and unions and broadcasters and casting directors and agents will come together and
producers,
all of us. If they're missing, then what effect can we have? We all have to be on the same page. So we have to admit that there's a problem, and then we have to work together collectively to say, what have we been doing wrong, where we're not sharing this information, and these serial perpetrators are allowed to still remain in positions of power. So, I'm not saying specifically what we will do, but I know my members are asking for action. And the Me Too campaign has really shone a light on just how prevalent sexual abuse and harassment is for women, men as well. I'm not negating that. But, I'm one of those Me Toos myself. So there's a fire lit under me as a union leader. There's a fire lit under the heads of the FIA, the Federation of International Actors Unions, and Fern Downey, my past president, is still president of that international board. We'll get best practices. We've got academics working with us.
Now, as they also point out on Me Too, on the Me Too campaign, you don't have to share your story, but you brought it up. Like, what was it like for you? I remember you and ENG back in, back in the day. Like, what was it like for you as a young woman and as a woman generally on the set?
I'm a character actress. I'm what I call a handsome woman. So I think that although even I have been attacked 4 times in my life. And on that set, they gave me a storyline. They gave me a romantic storyline one time. And all of a sudden, without any warning, without any conversation, I had somebody else's tongue down my throat with the camera rolling. It was shocking. Shocking.
Like, it wasn't part of the script?
No, it absolutely was not. So
So everybody was in on it? Like the camera was rolling or what? Yeah.
Some men feel that that's their, there's no fences around that. There are no boundaries. And what we're talking about is from casual things like that to absolutely being raped. That's what we're dealing with. I've heard stories this week, and I don't know, of producers and directors servicing themselves on set, and none of the guilds and none of the people spoke up. And
servicing themselves, like having master.
Yes.
Wow.
So, but I really want to make sure that we understand that I don't think this is just our industry. I think that we know that It's systemic in society. We need to raise men who respect women better and men who respect men better and know that there are boundaries and it isn't the old, there's a self-professed abuser who's president of the United States. So what are we telling our men? What are we telling our women, that their voices aren't heard because you see them raked through the legal system and nothing happens?
We have to leave it there. Theresa, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch and see how these changes take effect going forward. Theresa Tova is the Toronto President of ACTRA, the union that represents performers in Canada. Alberta